Does she get jealous?
She gets jealous. She's Gwen's dog now, so.
The internet has always been waiting for cracks in Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton's fairy tale. But what if the cracks didn't come from rumors? What if they came from Gwen? Through vulnerable lyrics, pointed interviews, and moments that felt almost too honest, she may have exposed a side of Blake the public was never supposed to see. Something he kept quiet. Something that shifts the narrative from picture-perfect romance to something far more complicated. And once you connect the dots, the story doesn't feel nearly as polished as their anniversary posts. The romance no one saw coming. Back in 2011, Blake Shelton was already a heavyweight in country music. Fans knew his voice, radio loved his records, and Nashville respected his pen. But outside of that world, he wasn't exactly a household name yet. That changed the moment he took a red chair on the very first season of The Voice, sitting alongside Adam Levine, Christina Aguilera, and CeeLo Green. What started as just another singing competition quickly turned into something bigger, and Blake slowly became one of its anchors. By 2014, the show decided to refresh the energy and brought in Gwen Stefani. She didn't just blend in, she made noise. The Washington Post even noted that she and Pharrell Williams practically stole the show during their debut. By then, Blake had become the breakout personality of the series, thanks in large part to his hilarious back-and-forth rivalry with Adam Levine. That playful bromance was pure entertainment. But to Gwen, Blake was still a stranger. She later admitted she hadn't really known who he was when she first joined the show. Once they started working together, though, she paid closer attention. She realized he wasn't just a funny guy in a swivel chair. He was a real songwriter with depth and years of experience. The more time they spent on set, the more she felt pulled toward him. She would later describe it as a magnetic kind of connection, something subtle but undeniable. While viewers at home were enjoying the playful banter between coaches on The Voice, Blake's personal life was quietly unraveling. In July 2015, news broke that he and Miranda Lambert were ending their marriage after 4 years. Their joint statement admitted that this was not the future they had envisioned. What shocked many people wasn't just the split, it was how quickly everything wrapped up. Reports indicated the divorce was finalized almost immediately after the public announcement. Blake later explained on the Bobby Bones show that with no children involved and a solid prenuptial agreement in place, the legal process moved fast. Within about 10 days, it was done. Just 1 month later, another headline hit. Gwen Stefani and Gavin Rossdale, the frontman of Bush, announced their own divorce. And this wasn't a quiet separation. Us Weekly published a detailed report alleging that Rossdale had been involved with their children's nanny. Gwen later spoke openly about how painful and humiliating the experience was. In interviews with Glamour and Cosmopolitan, she explained that the public only saw a fraction of what really happened. Behind closed doors, she described months and months of emotional torture, things she believed most people wouldn't even believe if they knew the full story. The turning point came back on the set of The Voice. Blake had gathered the cast and crew to tell them about his split. After he finished speaking, Gwen approached him quietly, tears in her eyes, asking if they could talk privately. What he didn't realize in that moment was that she was living through the exact same storm. What started as supportive emails once a week slowly became 3 times a week. Before long, they were talking every day. Once they exchanged numbers, the connection deepened fast. Blake has since been very direct about what that period meant to him. He has openly said that Gwen saved his life. In the middle of a high-profile divorce, being able to confide in someone who truly understood the spotlight, the scrutiny, and the heartbreak made all the difference. Looking back, the timing almost feels unreal. 2 global music stars, both navigating painful divorces from fellow musicians, sitting side by side on a television show built around turning chairs and big voices. Gwen later recalled the moment Blake announced his split to the other coaches. She said she felt exposed, almost frozen, because she was secretly going through the same thing. During the blind auditions, Blake walked over to her chair, something he had never done before, looking completely devastated. That was when she knew she needed to speak to him. Blake remembers catching a glimpse of her teary eyes and assuming she simply felt bad for him. He had no idea they were standing in the same emotional space. That shared understanding became the foundation of their bond. As they leaned on each other behind the scenes, the shift in their chemistry became noticeable on camera. By October 2015, rumors were swirling everywhere. When Entertainment Tonight asked Gwen directly if they were dating, she laughed it off. Blake also brushed off speculation online, joking that the things he read about himself were wild. But Hollywood gossip rarely slows down. In November, the two were spotted at a Halloween party in Hollywood. Inside, they reportedly kept things careful and low-key. But as they left, cameras caught them holding hands, at least until they noticed the paparazzi and quickly separated. Soon after, E! News released photos showing Blake's arm around Gwen's shoulder and his hand resting at her waist. Even with the growing evidence, Gwen continued to downplay the situation. In an interview with Carson Daly, she laughed off the idea that they were a couple, insisting they were just trying to have fun. Now, once those Halloween photos of Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani looking a little too comfortable hit the internet, the rumors didn't just grow, they exploded. What had been quiet whispers suddenly became headline news everywhere. Instead of panicking, Gwen leaned into the moment. During an appearance on Air with Ryan Seacrest, she played it cool. When Blake's name came up, she jokingly pretended not to know who he was, referring to him as the country guy. It was a smooth move, like she was daring anyone to read between the lines. Ryan wasn't letting it slide, though. He pressed her about the dating rumors. Gwen brushed it off by joking that maybe NBC cooked up the whole thing as a publicity stunt. Two newly divorced coaches on the same show at the same time? That sounded convenient enough to spin. But when he finally asked her straight up if they were dating, she drew the line. She said she wasn't going to answer that, and made it clear she had already shared enough. By that point, the writing was on the wall. A few days later, Blake's representative confirmed to Today that the two were officially dating. Just like that, it was no longer gossip. It was real. Even then, neither of them fully understood where this was heading. Blake later admitted that while Gwen had been his rock during one of the darkest chapters of his life, he didn't immediately see forever. He described meeting someone going through the exact same heartbreak at the exact same time as a miracle. But in the back of both their minds, they wondered if it was just a rebound. He even joked at concerts that in the beginning they were just hanging out and messing around. Gwen seemed to acknowledge that label too. On her 2016 song Truth, she cheekily addressed the rebound talk, almost daring critics to keep saying it. What started as something casual quickly proved to be anything but. In fact, their relationship almost ended before it truly began. Gwen later admitted that there was a moment when everything felt too overwhelming. Her divorce was messy, emotional, and public. She felt like her life was scattered in pieces. At one point, she even told Blake she couldn't talk to him anymore because it all felt insane and she already had too much on her plate. She asked him to stop texting. Blake didn't exactly follow that request. Instead, he found a creative workaround. He began writing a duet titled Go Ahead and Break My Heart and reached out to her under the cover of music. He sent her a half-finished track and asked her to help complete it. Gwen later reflected that he probably just wanted to impress her. Whatever the motive, it worked. She sent back the second verse, and that simple exchange reopened the door. When they finally stepped out together publicly, they didn't do it halfway. Their red carpet debut happened at the 2016 Vanity Fair Oscar party. It was a bold choice, and their outfits told a story all on their own. Gwen arrived in a striking red Yanina Couture gown, sheer and detailed with satin flower petals, every bit the fashion icon. Blake stayed true to himself in black jeans, cowboy boots, and a black blazer over an untucked shirt. Opposites in style, perfectly in sync in spirit. Years later, Gwen looked back on that night during an appearance on The Kelly Clarkson Show and called it her first public date with Blake Shelton. She admitted that seeing photos from that evening still melts her because it holds such a special memory. Music soon followed romance. In April 2016, they released Go Ahead and Break My Heart on Blake's album, If I'm Honest. They didn't just perform it, they co-wrote it. After delivering a powerful performance on The Voice, the song gained serious traction. Blake described it as incredibly honest, even brutally honest in places. They had hesitated before collaborating, worried about what people would say, but eventually they stopped caring. Blake openly admitted that they decided to go for it without overthinking the noise. Later that year, Blake sat down with Billboard and opened up about how much pain had fueled If I'm Honest. He explained that when he has a broken heart, he needs to get it out of his system. Writing those songs was both painful and healing. He described himself as being at rock bottom, in the middle of hell. Meeting Gwen during that period felt like an antidote. He once again made it clear that she had saved his life. He even broke down the stages of their connection. It started with checking in once a week over email. Then came the exchange of phone numbers, and before long, it turned into constant communication. He admitted there was a moment when he woke up thinking about her and wondered if she felt the same. As their love story unfolded, it didn't just capture hearts, it boosted their star power. In 2017, Blake was named People's Sexiest Man Alive. He responded with typical self-deprecating humor, joking that the magazine must have been running out of options. With that title came even louder questions about marriage. By 2019, the pressure reached the Ellen DeGeneres show. Ellen playfully suggested it might be time for a proposal, even gifting Blake a ticking clock as a nudge. Blake flipped the joke around, suggesting maybe Gwen would be the one to propose. Later, when asked how Gwen felt about that idea, he made it clear she had already told him that was not how it was going to work. Then came March 2020. The world shut down. Tours stopped. Studios went quiet. For the first time, their schedules cleared completely. They retreated to Blake's ranch in Oklahoma to ride out quarantine. During an appearance on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Blake joked that they were quarantined with a whole bunch of Stefanis, referring to Gwen's kids being there with them. He described it in his usual playful way, saying it felt like a pile of them. While many couples struggled under lockdown, Blake admitted in an interview with SiriusXM that he had seen reports of relationships falling apart. Being forced together revealed cracks for some. For them, it did the opposite. The isolation strengthened their bond. Instead of driving each other crazy, they genuinely enjoyed the time. After months at the ranch in Tishomingo, Oklahoma, they decided to create a shared home base in Los Angeles. According to Dirt, they purchased their first home together in 2020 for $13.2 million. The property spans around 13,000 square feet, complete with a private theater, a large pool, and serious privacy away from prying lenses. Sources told Us Weekly that they were truly happy as a family, excited to settle in with Gwen's 3 children and start fresh. The mansion may have been worlds away from the dirt roads of Oklahoma, but at that point, location didn't matter. As long as they were together, they had already found home. In late October 2020, Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton did what only a true power couple can do. They shut down the internet with a single photo. Gwen posted a picture of the two of them kissing, but all eyes went straight to the massive diamond ring on her finger. Her caption was simple and joyful, making it clear she had said yes. Blake followed up on Twitter with the same photo, pouring his heart out in a way that felt raw and genuine. He thanked Gwen for saving not just his year, but the rest of his life. He made it known he had heard that yes loud and clear. When Pastor Rick Warren congratulated them, Blake replied with excitement, making it obvious they were both over the moon. Not long after, Gwen appeared on Air with Ryan Seacrest and admitted the word engaged still felt strange coming out of her mouth. After nearly 5 years of dating and endless speculation from fans and media, the moment had finally arrived, and even she seemed to need a second to process it. Of course, the next question was obvious. When is the wedding? But this was 2020, the height of uncertainty. Gwen was honest about not wanting a masked, socially distanced ceremony. Her parents were being so cautious, they were not even visiting for Thanksgiving. Walking down the aisle without her loved ones fully present was not an option. She made it clear she would rather wait than rush something so important. By December 2020, Us Weekly reported that the couple was aiming for 2021, and Blake was not just planning the big day, he was physically building it. Sources revealed that he constructed a custom chapel on the grounds of his Oklahoma ranch, putting in much of the work himself. It was described as a tribute to their love, with plans to hold the ceremony right there. As 2021 rolled in, speculation kicked into high gear. In early June, Page 6 photographed Gwen wearing what looked like a diamond wedding band alongside her engagement ring. Fans immediately assumed they had secretly tied the knot. But that theory quickly fell apart when Gwen shared photos from her surprise bridal shower, confirming the wedding had not happened yet. Then things became official. On June 29, 2021, the couple applied for their marriage license in Oklahoma, where Blake owns his ranch. In that state, the process is straightforward. With valid identification and a fee, couples are cleared to marry without blood tests, residency requirements, or waiting periods for adults. The catch is that once issued, the license is only valid for 10 days. That meant the clock was ticking. Given the timing, the 4th of July weekend seemed like the perfect window. Blake had plans to perform during the Macy's fireworks special, but that did not rule out a daytime ceremony in Oklahoma. Just days before obtaining the license, he had teased that his holiday plans were covered, adding fuel to the fire. Still, Gwen and Blake had never been a couple that rushed for public approval. They dated for 5 years before getting engaged, moving carefully and privately. Whether they chose July 2nd or waited until the final day allowed, one thing was clear: the wedding was imminent, and it happened. Over the 2021 4th of July weekend, they quietly married at Blake's ranch in Tishomingo, Oklahoma. The ceremony was intimate, centered entirely on close family and friends. The custom chapel Blake had built became the setting, adding a deeply personal touch to the day. Carson Daly, their longtime friend and The Voice co-star, officiated the ceremony. He later shared that Gwen's vows were emotional and heartfelt, reflecting a lifelong dream coming true. After she finished, Carson jokingly challenged Blake to match that energy. Blake responded in a way no one expected. He had prepared a stool and a guitar and performed a song he wrote specifically for Gwen called "We Can Reach the Stars." According to Carson, Blake became emotional while singing, making it one of the most powerful moments of the ceremony. Months later, in November 2021, Blake officially released the song, co-written with Craig Wiseman. He explained that it captured exactly why they chose to marry, a declaration of how they felt, and a reminder of what those rings symbolized. Unlike many newlyweds, they did not immediately jet off on a honeymoon. Their schedules were packed, and July had been the only opening to even hold the wedding. Instead, they blended work with celebration. Gwen shared glimpses from Blake's Friends and Heroes tour on Instagram, calling it their honeymoon tour. Their duets, Happy Anywhere and Nobody But You, became part of the set list, turning performances into shared moments. Blake later revealed they did carve out quiet time together in Oklahoma right after the ceremony. They intentionally chose calm over chaos, wanting a moment to breathe before jumping back into commitment. Gwen expressed a similar mindset, saying she felt honeymoon vibes regardless of location. For her, the journey to that point felt spiritual, like she had finally arrived at peace after years of turbulence. From the outside, it looked like a fairy tale ending. But as with any relationship under a microscope, whispers began suggesting that not everything behind the scenes was picture perfect. Even couples who seem unshakable have their storms, and reports hinted that Gwen and Blake might be navigating a few clouds of their own. A love story under strain. In recent years, there have been growing whispers that Blake Shelton may have been running on empty. After more than a decade balancing a demanding television schedule with touring and recording, the pace appeared to catch up with him. In 2022, he made a major decision, stepping away from The Voice after 12 seasons as a coach. For many fans, it felt like the end of an era. Reports suggested he had grown tired of the constant pressure and behind-the-scenes tensions that come with a long-running reality show. Gwen Stefani, however, offered a more practical explanation in an interview with Extra. She pointed out that Blake had been filming 2 seasons a year while squeezing in national tours between tapings. It was a non-stop cycle, and eventually it wore him down. But career exhaustion may not have been the only strain. Some outlets began reporting that the fatigue had spilled into his personal life. Sources claimed Gwen had noticed a shift in his energy, leaving her unsettled. Insiders alleged that she confided in friends about feeling the distance between them growing. The fiery spark that once defined their relationship, according to those reports, seemed to be dimming. Relationship experts often describe this phase as emotional burnout, a point where maintaining connection feels harder than it once did. In Hollywood, that kind of fatigue can quickly fuel speculation about deeper cracks. Adding to the pressure was their shared time on The Voice. On screen, their playful rivalry made for entertaining television. Off-screen, however, that competitive dynamic may not have been as harmless. Gwen once admitted she hesitated before returning for another season, worried that competing directly against her husband on national television might feel awkward. Sources later suggested that the professional rivalry sometimes bled into their private life. Behind the scenes, there were whispers of clashing egos. Blake's larger-than-life personality often commanded attention, and some insiders claimed that dynamic occasionally frustrated Gwen. There were even rumors of jealousy, sparked by what was described as harmless on-camera flirting with a contestant. It is a familiar pattern in celebrity marriages, ambition colliding with intimacy. When both partners operate at the highest level of their fields, competition can quietly creep in. What once felt playful can begin to feel personal. Reports also surfaced describing everyday disagreements that hinted at deeper differences. Allegedly, their contrasting lifestyles began to grate on one another. Gwen, known for her structured household, was said to value order and routine. Blake's laid-back, outdoorsy habits reportedly clashed with that structure. Sources even claimed minor issues, from muddy boots to dietary preferences, sparked tension. There were whispers of more serious arguments as well. One report suggested they had a heated disagreement around their anniversary, escalating into a temporary separation of bedrooms after particularly intense disputes. Other rumors pointed to disagreements over politics during the 2020 election cycle, and even differing views on cosmetic enhancements. Whether exaggerated or not, the narrative painted a picture of 2 strong personalities navigating friction beneath the surface. Their differences extend beyond habits. Gwen, a California native with deep roots in Los Angeles culture, thrives in a fast-paced, fashion-forward environment. Blake, an Oklahoma country artist through and through, finds peace in open land and simplicity. Even after purchasing a mansion in Los Angeles together, insiders claimed their design tastes clashed, traditional country versus sleek modern. Over time, experts say, the very traits that once attracted partners can become points of tension. Opposites may spark interest, but sustaining harmony requires effort. Distance has also played a role. For years, working together on The Voice allowed them to stay side by side. Blake once admitted that sharing the set with Gwen was one of his favorite aspects of the job because it meant no time apart. When he left the show in 2022, that dynamic shifted. He explained publicly that his decision was driven by family. Becoming a stepfather to Gwen's 3 sons, Kingston, Zuma, and Apollo, reshaped his priorities. He has said that he no longer sees himself as the center of his own world. Yet, as Blake stepped away, Gwen returned for another season. When asked about their career decisions, Blake remarked that they do not involve each other heavily in professional choices, a comment some observers found surprisingly blunt. There were even rumors suggesting Gwen encouraged him to slow down, hoping more time at home would strengthen their future together. Touring continues to test that balance. In early 2023, Blake admitted that being away from home for weeks at a time was the hardest part of performing. He spoke about storms hitting California and wishing he were there with his family. Gwen, meanwhile, maintains a packed schedule of her own, music, television, and business ventures keeping her constantly in motion. Long stretches apart can challenge even the strongest marriages. Experts often note that physical distance can intensify emotional gaps if not carefully managed. Another reported strain involves expanding their family. At one point, the couple was said to have explored the possibility of having a child together. Later reports claimed they stepped back from that dream, allegedly overwhelmed by the process. Blake has openly expressed that he sometimes feels he delayed fatherhood for too long in life. Gwen reportedly understood how much that meant to him, though insiders suggested the pressure weighed heavily on her. Blake has consistently spoken about how much he cherishes his role as stepfather to Kingston, Zuma, and Apollo. He has described that responsibility as one of the most meaningful parts of his life. Yet there have been murmurs that Gwen occasionally questions whether his relaxed approach aligns with her parenting style. At the same time, her ex-husband Gavin Rossdale has reportedly felt Blake oversteps at times, leaving him in a complicated middle ground. Blake's past controversies have also resurfaced in public conversation. Years-old tweets criticized for offensive language drew backlash, prompting him to apologize and acknowledge that his words carry influence, especially around children. Trust, too, has been a recurring theme. Gwen's past experience with betrayal during her marriage to Gavin Rossdale left deep scars. She once described discovering that affair as months of emotional torment. Given that history, reports suggesting she urged Blake to distance himself from certain friends, including former Voice co-star Adam Levine after his own scandal, reflect a desire to protect her peace. Blake's own divorce from Miranda Lambert came with allegations of infidelity, and unverified rumors once circulated about closeness with a former contestant. Though never substantiated, such chatter adds fuel to speculation. He kept it hidden. Gwen Stefani just exposed Blake Shelton, and it's bad. For years now, the internet has treated Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton's marriage like a reality show waiting for a dramatic finale. If they go quiet on Instagram for a few weeks, people start whispering. If one of them releases a song that isn't dripping in romance, the divorce rumors fire up like clockwork. No matter how many times they show up smiling and hand in hand, there's always a corner of the comment section predicting the end. What makes it more interesting is that Gwen has never hidden from her own feelings, especially in her music. She has built a career on turning personal moments into lyrics, and when she released Purple Irises in 2024, she didn't hold back. The duet peeled back the curtain on something a lot of people didn't expect: insecurity. In interviews, she admitted the song came from a deeply vulnerable place. She had hit that stage where she was thinking about aging, questioning her beauty, and wondering how time might affect her marriage. Even when everything is stable on the outside, the mind can create its own storm. She openly talked about getting stuck in that spiral, knowing the truth of her relationship, but still letting insecurity twist the narrative in her head. Eventually, she realized she was overthinking. The drama wasn't happening in real life, it was happening in her mind. But what surprised people even more was Blake admitting he had similar fears. The two of them, according to him, have real conversations about getting older and whether love holds up through change. They ask each other the uncomfortable questions most couples avoid. That honesty, at least on paper, sounded less like trouble and more like work being done behind closed doors. Still, the speculation didn't slow down. By 2025, when Gwen released the deluxe edition of her album Bouquet, one track in particular sent fans into detective mode. Still Gonna Love You had lyrics that sounded like forgiveness in the face of mistakes and pain. Lines about being pushed away and hurt, even unintentionally, had listeners convinced something was brewing. Fans immediately connected the dots to Blake Shelton. But Gwen shut that narrative down quickly. She explained that the song was about an unbreakable kind of love, the kind that survives flaws and bad days, and she didn't just dwell on the heavy stuff. On another track, Pretty, she highlighted the confidence Blake has given her, crediting him for making her feel stronger and more secure than ever. By July 2025, they were celebrating 4 years of marriage. On social media, they looked like a couple still deep in the honeymoon phase. Blake called her his pretty girl, and said he felt lucky just knowing her. Gwen responded with her own heartfelt tribute, thanking God for him daily. It was sweet, public, and very on-brand for them. Then November arrived, and the tone shifted. Right as Blake dropped his album for recreational use only, tabloids started circling. One song, "Hangin' On," stood out. It told the story of a couple trying to hold on while everything around them falls apart. Naturally, people wondered if art was imitating life. Blake addressed it, saying the track wasn't a reflection of his marriage, though the way he added a hopeful tone at the end left room for interpretation. Meanwhile, magazine reports claimed the two had been spending more time apart, and that the spark might not be what it used to be. Some even described his anniversary post as muted, as if affection could be measured in emojis and punctuation. Leaned into being the unlikely pair. The California pop rock queen and the Oklahoma country star. They joked about their differences in diet, music taste, and lifestyle. But according to these reports, what once felt fun and quirky might now feel exhausting. The rumors only intensified when both of them were noticeably absent from the CMA Awards in November. Observers started looking for clues everywhere, especially when Gwen appeared on The Tonight Show in early December. During her appearance, she spoke warmly about life on their ranch and the garden they were growing together. At one point, she casually referred to Blake as her husband in a way that felt deliberate to some viewers. When asked about him, she gushed over how good he looked. On the surface, it came off as a smitten wife praising her man. But in the context of swirling rumors, critics wondered if it felt just a little too intentional. Around the same time, Gwen attended the premiere of Oh What? Fun. Alone, but she made sure her jewelry did plenty of talking. She wore her engagement ring, her wedding band, and the large Valentine's Day ring Blake had given her in 2024. Cameras caught every sparkle. Yet Blake himself was nowhere in sight. Behind the scenes, insiders insisted things were not nearly as dramatic as tabloids suggested. Sources told outlets that the marriage was actually in a good place, that the chemistry was still alive, and that busy schedules were the real culprit behind their constant time apart. Still, people noticed that Blake seemed to find time for plenty of hangouts with fellow country star Keith Urban. While Gwen handled red carpet solo and fielded questions about her marriage, Blake's public calendar told a slightly different story. It wasn't necessarily proof of trouble, but it added fuel to a narrative already burning. In the end, what exists publicly is a mix of music, interviews, social media posts, and anonymous sources. On one side, there are love songs, anniversary tributes, and declarations of faith in each other. On the other, there are heartbreak lyrics, separate appearances, and whispers about fading sparks. Whether this is simply a high-profile couple navigating real life under a microscope or a relationship quietly shifting behind the scenes remains unclear. What is certain is that every lyric, every absence, and every Instagram caption continues to be examined like evidence in a case the public desperately wants to solve.